Well, hello and welcome to Curlis Mania, or should I say, welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. I have a very, very special guest with me today, Scott Lade from the
Hey,
Prog.
Tom, it's awesome to be here, man. Thank you for the invite and couldn't be on a subject that I'm more prepared for. I love ELP. One of the bands that were just absolutely foundational and just part of my childhood, and they've been in my life since I was 13 years old. So yeah, I love them. I can't wait to talk about what I consider to be their two best albums.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm all in on ELP as well. I grew up with them too. I had an older sister who had the first album I heard was Works. And
Mm.
she had that triple album, and I remember listening to it and being fascinated by it, just opening it up and seeing, wow, these guys are so cool. And I loved the, Fanfare of the Common Man and
Oh
Pirate.
yeah,
Anyway, we're not here to talk about that record, but that's how I got started with ELP. And
awesome.
I've never stopped. I've been a
Yeah,
stone cold fan ever since. Um, so anyway, let's get into this. Let's do this. This is a
I'm
this
ready.
this is a Prague battle for the
Yeah.
ages. We're doing Trilogy 1972 versus Brain Salad Surgery
Mm. Mm.
1973. Check it. Look at that. And,
Mm.
and I want to show you, Scott. I want to show you the price of this vinyl.
Yeah, let's see that.
Get it close here. I don't know if you can see it.
Is that $1.99?
$1.99, $2.
That's right.
They didn't
Yeah.
value their ELP in Chicago, I guess.
I see a whole lot of pictures at an exhibition, Tarkus and Trilogy, all over the used record bins, everywhere I go.
Yeah.
And that's just a testimony to just how big a band they actually were, how many millions of copies they actually sold. They were huge. People forget that for, a brief moment in time, maybe a 2 or 3 year span, ELP was as big as Led Zeppelin, just in terms of what they were grossing, box office receipts. They were ginormous in the US. You mentioned Works. That's the first time I saw them. They had the 60-piece orchestra and the 30-voice choir going. They put on a spectacle like nobody else. Just amazing. Yeah, so
Massive show.
ELP,
Massive show. You know,
unreal.
they were one of the first bands that really put on a big show, like, and they got crucified for it, man. They got like, and people used to make fun of them for it. And it's like
Yeah.
now it's like, look at concerts now, it's all a spectacle. I mean, come on,
But
ridiculous.
1970, you're shooting off cannons at your
Yeah,
second ever gig
yeah.
in front of a 500,000 people. It was like, who are these guys? Who do they think they are? How dare they? But the thing about ELP, before we get started and really digging into these two great albums, the thing about ELP that transcends every other prog band, was they brought the sex appeal.
They
Women
did.
dug
They,
ELP.
they did. They were,
Women dug Keith.
yep,
They dug Carl, but they really, really dug Craig.
yep.
And I can't think of another prog band that had that same level of appeal to both sexes, because obviously dudes were always attracted to somebody that was jamming knives in between the keys of the Hammond orchestra, and being flipped upside down and just we love that stuff. But the Greg Lake ballads added a little something extra, and both of these albums contain just a beautiful example of that other side of Emerson, Lake and Palmer that was so important to their overall sound. Some people hate that side of ELP. I think it's absolutely instrumental in trying to understand what they were all about and their mass appeal, why they sold millions and millions of copies, and why you could find Trilogy for $1.99 at the local store.
Absolutely.
All part of it.
Absolutely. No, and you know what's funny you mentioned that, because I watched an old video of ELP playing, probably like we're early. You can tell it's like they're really young. It's like they're maybe their first couple gigs or first tour or whatever, and
Yeah.
they're playing in England, and there's all these comments from females like, "Oh, Carl's so cute. Oh, Greg is so cute. Oh,
Yeah.
so you're right. It's like there's some female attraction
Oh
there.
yeah.
Sure. So, all right. So quickly, I'm going to get into a brief history. This is what I do with these battles. We kind of do a quick history, up until Trilogy. So, and this is a story that's probably been told many times, but I'm just going to quickly try to go over it. And Scott, feel free to jump in and fill in the holes if you need to, or if you feel inclined. So essentially, Keith Emerson, he's with the Nice, and
Yeah.
they're down to Davey List was in the original band. That's down to a trio. They do a couple albums, and I think Keith is kind of getting restless, looking for other things. Greg Lake is a bass player in King Crimson, and they do Court of the Crimson King, which is just unbelievable record. And he is apparently restless as well. I probably under the thumb of Mr. Fripp, and feeling a
You
little bit.
think?
Yeah, that's my guess. That's my guess.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, why would Greg want to leave King Crimson? I mean, really? But it probably was a little bit claustrophobic in that band. So anyway, they end up playing a show together at the Fillmore West, and they end up jamming together during a sound check, and it really clicks. And somehow they end up having a conversation like, hey, maybe we should form a band together. And so long story short, they decide to do that. And even though Greg does sing on the second King Crimson record, that kind of threw me off because I'm like, was he part of the band there? No, he was.
Yeah.
Came in to did,
No.
did vocals.
He was a hired gun at that point.
Exactly. So he
Yeah.
was fully in ELP by that point. So they look for a drummer. They think about Mitch Mitchell from the Jimi Hendrix Experience. It doesn't happen, but
And that is the origin of the anachronistic story that Jimi Hendrix almost joined ELP. That never happened.
happened.
But that is where that connection came from, was that they were very serious about Mitch Mitchell, actually. I
Yeah.
think that was actually their first choice. Like instinctively thought that was the guy.
Mhm.
Uh yeah, so they actually picked the right guy in the end, didn't they?
They did pick the right guy. Carl Palmer from Atomic Rooster, and earlier than that was Crazy World of Arthur Brown. And man, he could. I think Keith Emerson said something like, "This guy could do a shuffle beyond shuffle." Like
Yeah.
when they started doing these jams, it was like this guy. Oh my God, he's the guy. And they actually had to convince him because I guess Atomic Rooster at the time was doing fairly well. And Carl was like, "I don't know about this new thing," and they were like, "No, no, no, you need to do this." So he finally relented, and so anyway, so they quickly recorded the first LP, self-titled record, 1970, I believe.
Yeah.
And that's a great record, but it definitely feels like they really ran into the studio really quickly. There it is. He's got it
Yeah.
there. And I really actually love that record, but it's definitely, you can tell they quickly went into the studio, did it. And they, like you said, the second gig they had was Isle of Wight
Yeah.
Festival. And I mean, they basically were superstars overnight. They
Yeah.
were already a super group of sorts. And then they do Isle of Wight and set off cannons, and they are played amazingly. People are like, oh my God, this band, who is this? This is awesome. So they were like Carl Palmer said, they were like superstars like overnight.
Yeah.
And then they were a big success. They made Tarkus, or sorry, Pictures at an Exhibition came out next. That was a live record that they did in Newcastle. And it ended up coming out into like a budget label, but it did very, very
Right.
well. And then they did Tarkus, and Tarkus, oh God, man, I love Tarkus. That's a whole nother episode. But man,
It is
what an
such
album.
a great record.
What a record. Who
Yeah.
knows what it's about? An tank armadillo? I don't know, but
Something like that. Who cares? It's just cool.
I don't
I mean,
care. Yeah.
you're that album cover is gonna stop you dead in its tracks. You're gonna be like, what even is that? You gotta hear the record. Yeah, so Tarkus is definitely a 10 out of 10 record, and it's hard to believe that they would get even better.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's perfect. That brings us right to the next
yeah.
record. They finish Tarkus, they tour, and boom, let's start the next record. And the next record is Trilogy.
Mm,
And
mm.
so I'm going to throw it over to you, Scott.
Yeah, what a great
Come on.
record. I mean, oddly enough, my introduction to ELP uh, was not Trilogy. It was actually Brain Salad Surgery. This was actually the last of the first 5 albums, if you want to call Pictures at an Exhibition, that I got my hands on. First one I ever got was actually Pictures.
Right.
And it
Okay.
was that budget price that you just mentioned that got me to buy it. I finally got around to Trilogy, and I was convinced for a long time that this was their best album. But I will say this much about Trilogy right from the get-go, is that this seems to be the perfect engineering and production partnership between Greg Lake and Eddie Offord. The balance of each instrument and the clarity of the overall mix is actually stunning. I would say that maybe only Fragile and Asia, in my estimation, sound better than this. So it is perfect in terms of its sonics. It starts out with one of my favorite tracks. It's an extended track. Come on, let's face it. Endless Enigma Part 1 and then Fugue and then Endless Enigma Part 2. That's one track.
Yeah.
It's one amazing track, one of the best things they ever did. And then you run into all these shorter tracks that are actually really, really cool that give Trilogy its real flavor, right? I mean, uh, what do you got? Hoedown and the Sheriff, and then you got, of course, we talked about it a little bit earlier, the Greg Lake ballad, right? You got to have the
I
Greg
have it.
Lake ballad.
Yep.
It just doesn't feel right without it. And what a good one we got with In the Beginning or From the Beginning or
Oh,
whatever the world it's called. I love that track. The guitar work is so good. Uh, unlike Lucky Man, where it just kind of felt like Keith's part was really tacked on at the end.
yeah.
It felt like Keith was really engaged on this track, playing some really cool stuff in the background, but obviously a Greg Lake driven track. So good. And then you get the Aaron Copland thing, the hoedown thing. We would revisit Aaron Copland again, right?
Right.
With
Right.
fanfare. So
Yep.
this was kind of the first go round with that. To me, the album is let down by side two slightly. I love the title track. I just think
I don't
it's absolutely beautiful. And for anyone that says that prog rock can't do love songs, they're dead wrong, man. Listen to Trilogy, brings a little tear to the old eyeball there.
take a listen.
But to me, it kind of goes down a little bit with Living Sin. And then Abaddon's Bolero, I've actually come around on over the years. For years, I just thought it was boring. It's like, man, it's the same thing over and over and over. And I'm like, yeah, dude, it's a bolero. Of course, that's what it does. It goes over and over and over, but as it goes over, it intensifies. It crescendos. It adds different elements and different keyboard parts and stuff like that until your mind's like, okay, this is actually a really good track. So I was wrong about Abaddon's Bolero, dead wrong about it.
Yep.
But overall, I don't think it's side two is not quite as good as side one. What an amazing record. Just fantastic. I love how well Carl Palmer's drums sound on this record.
Oh,
And
yeah.
we talked about the production. And to me, a lot of times it really comes down to how well you're miking the drums, how well you understand the room. Eddie Offord understood the room at Advision.
That was
Let's get
that was
that
his home
clear.
turf, wasn't it? Yeah.
I mean, whether it was Bill Bruford or Carl Palmer, some kind of magic was going on in the drum room at Advision, perfectly captured on this record right here.
Bruford's drums, like you mentioned, those are amazing too. On Fragile and Close to the Oh my
Um,
God. Come on.
yeah,
Come on.
it doesn't get a whole lot better than that, Tom. It
No.
really doesn't.
No.
Sonically, I think Trilogy sounds better than Brain Salad Surgery. I think it sounds better than Tarkus, which also sounds really, really good to these ears. People can diss the production on pictures at an exhibition, but actually, I think it sounds really cool and raw. But overall, Trilogy is their best sounding album.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, man. I think the sonics of it is just unbelievable. And there's a huge, I agree with you. There's a huge step up from Tarkus to Trilogy. There's a
Yeah,
big step. And I don't know what it is, but somehow it sounds amazing. And
yeah,
I'm with you. The first side is I have in my notes, the first side is unbeatable. It's on this on Trilogy.
yeah,
It's Endless Enigma is like a spy movie, right? I mean, it's just like when I first heard it, I was like, this is great. People miss out on the fun in ELP. Like
yeah,
people are so serious. They have a lot of fun on their records, And what I always joke about is that they have they're letting off steam tracks where it's
yeah,
like, they've probably been working on Endless Enigma and Trilogy for like hours, and then they finally are like, oh god, man, I need to let off some steam, and they do things like Hoedown and
Yeah.
and the Sheriff and things like that that are just fun, right? So I'm with you. I just, I'm just going to repeat. I mean, the first side is just really unassailable. I love the Sheriff. I mean, things like their fun
What a
tracks.
great fun
People
track.
don't like that stuff. I love that stuff, man. It's kind of a parody, but they
Yeah.
do it perfectly. And Hoedown, oh my God, I can listen to Hoedown like forever, like I on repeat. Just it's just the way the drumming on that track. Oh, I mean, Carl just killing it
And
all over.
that's the thing about ELP. When I was a kid, they were taking me on journeys, kind of the same way Yes and Genesis and Pink Floyd were doing for me. ELP were taking me on different kinds of journeys, right? I was going into, you know, this whole weird alternate universe where you're encountering different things on each album, whether it's armadillo tanks or it's this dystopian future of Carnival 9. Here with this album, you get some of that spy kind of flavor of Endless Enigma. That sounds kind of spy-like. And then you get into the country and western kind of feel of the Copeland
All over the
stuff and
place.
the sheriff. Just a whole lot of fun, a lot of different colors. This is peak Emerson, Lake and Palmer, no doubt. And I don't think, even though their egos were getting huge, I think musically they still were kind of having a lot of fun with what they were doing. They weren't taking themselves that seriously musically.
Yeah.
Because you go on stage and dudes flying upside down, with his keyboards, and you got Greg Lake with his $50,000 Persian rug that he's playing on, and Keith's got his cod piece, and Carl's got this drum set that weighs more than a 747. That's just the most
And it's going in
impractical thing
circles.
ever. He's got not one gong, he's got like three gongs. Come on, they knew how ridiculous it all was. They knew it was show, but come and see the show, pay your money, and they gave you a good show.
Played it,
They
man.
always
They didn't
did.
just come on stage and play, man. They gave you
Yeah.
a show, which is I respect that. And
Yeah.
so I'm also I want to say Greg's vocals. I mean, Greg's vocals are just so great on this record too. I mean, when he does the please, please open your eye, it's like yes, it's just like yeah, that's just awesome.
Yeah.
I just love his vocal.
Perfect.
And but
Yeah,
I'm,
this vocally, this was peak too, because you started noticing later on, obviously Greg's voice would change a little bit.
yep,
But you just listen to those 70s Emerson, Lake and Palmer records, and yeah, Greg Lake's voice was just he was born to be a pop star. He
yeah.
really was. He was a pop star in a prog band, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm with you that, it kind of at the end I had the same notes when I listened back again. Living Sin is kind of the first time where you're like, okay, maybe this is a little bit of a half step down
Yeah,
from what was happening earlier. It's okay. It's not bad. It's just not amazing.
fine.
And
Nothing
then
wrong with it, but it's
you
yeah,
know. And then Abaddon's Bolero, like you said, it's like it's weird to hear ELP having a rhythm section doing the same thing the whole time. That's just
it
like
is.
it kind of throws you off. You're like, wait a minute, this has just happened the same. Like you said, it just repeats, repeats. But of course, Emerson just keeps laying more and more overdubs as its song goes, right? And I heard that live they couldn't do it because there were too many overdubs.
Yeah, yeah, it's impossible to do. I mean, there's so many different parts. And like I said, I didn't like the repetitious nature of it until I went to college and uh, took music theory, and we started studying Ravel's Bolero,
Right.
and kind of saw what Ravel was doing there. Clearly, Emerson was a student. He knew what he was doing. A lot of similarities in the way he was structuring it. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, this is actually a really, really great track. Cool way to end the album.
Yeah.
It's just amazing what these bands could get away with in 1972 and still sell millions of copies.
Yes.
Just insane.
So
You think
true,
about
man.
1972, man, close to the edge. Thick as a Brick hit number one, and it was one long song. I mean,
God
Oh,
bless the 70s.
1972 was just brilliant. What an
God
amazing,
bless the set. I mean, that was when they would just let artists do what they wanted to do.
yeah.
And they would, like you said, they were selling. I mean, it was progressive rock was selling. I love
It
that.
was selling
Oh man.
millions and millions of copies. So, bands were given the freedom to do basically whatever they wanted. And that was a really, really good thing for a while
Mm-hmm.
until it wasn't
Till it
such
was
a good thing anymore.
the freedom became
As you clearly see behind me, some examples of,
yeah.
where if artists are left to their own devices, given too much time, money, and cocaine, uh, you get Love Beach.
Freedom becomes a liability at some point.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
even with works, you could kind of feel it heading in a weird like a direction that was like, so. And then, like you said, Love Beach is like, yeah, okay. But anyway, we're not talking about that. We are now on.
Because we are,
Let's come on. I mean, 1973. Talking about like ELP just going like this in like early 70s. It's like just a straight incline.
what was missing from Trilogy? Honestly,
The
a great
massive
album
epic.
cover.
Yeah. Oh,
Uh,
oh, yeah. That's true. That's
The
true.
only thing. It's the
Yeah.
only thing, right? Trilogy was perfect. I could
Yeah.
argue Trilogy is a perfect album. It's missing one thing. It's missing that killer album cover. And
Yeah.
boy, they corrected it there. Not only did they get the great Geiger to do that album cover, but he came up with that cool logo, man.
Yeah, he
You know,
did. That's right.
it's
He
it's the
did.
first time we see the ELP logo. Sadly, it would have been nice if we would have had that cool logo from the get-go. But what an amazing piece of art. And honestly, the music contained therein 100% reflects the artwork. And that is why Brain Salad Surgery will always be my favorite ELP album. It's them at their creative peak. They're expressing whatever they want to do. They have their own label at this point now. They've got their own studio. They bought this, renovated theater, and, they're recording and rehearsing there. And they come up with this thing.
Anacore,
Yes,
baby.
Eddie Offord was busy. Eddie Offord was busy, so he's not around to, twiddle the dials and whatever kind of magic potion Eddie Offord had going on back then. Not here. And
Right.
you know what? Yeah, he was, and I'm glad for two reasons. One, that meant he could focus on Tales from Topographic Oceans, the greatest thing mankind has ever achieved. But number two, I believe the free hand given Greg Lake on Brain Salad Surgery actually works to its advantage. It gives it that weird kind of darker edge that Eddie Uppard would not allow. He would always make sure
Oh,
the
really?
keyboard sounded
Yeah.
just so. He
Okay.
would make sure the drums always sounded just so. There's a little bit less of an attention to detail sonically on Brain Salad Surgery, that when you're talking about this weird dystopian future where it's man versus computer, and is mankind going to survive in the near future? And it makes sense. It all kind of works. And I just think there is not a weak moment on Brain Salad Surgery. It
Nope.
starts with one of my favorite tracks of all time. Their take on Jerusalem, just so beautiful, so wonderful. I'm confused why the BBC had a problem with it.
Yeah.
you
What's the
know,
deal with that? It's like a hymn. It was like a hymn or something like
it's a
that.
hymn,
It's like a
but
hymn, but it was almost like America the Beautiful for England or
yeah,
something. I
they
don't know.
call it like the second national anthem or something. So
Okay, gotcha.
it,
I'm
it
so
makes no
confused.
sense. It's an old hymn, and they blocked it. I guess they thought they were being satirical or somehow not reverential enough. I don't know, man. It made no sense. It did hurt them in the UK, but by this point, Emerson, Lake and Palmer really focused on the American market, and little kids in dorm rooms around the country were,
They didn't care.
unfolding that gatefold and having all kinds of unnatural thoughts.
Yep.
Uh, and even down to what the album's original title was supposed to be, which is what, whip some skull on you.
Yes. Yep.
which is I guess slang for whatever guys do in their private time.
Right.
It's just a naughty album. It's dirty, it's
Very
naughty,
naughty.
it's gaudy, it's over the top, it's completely preposterous. You've got Pete Sinfield back with Greg Lake singing his lyrics. How wonderful is that, man? Anytime you've got Pete writing lyrics and Greg singing them, I'm probably going to want to be listening. Uh, yeah, you got the wonderful Greg Lake ballad here, Still You Turn Me On. Maybe isn't quite as effective as the ballad on Trilogy.
Yeah.
If we're
Yeah.
going head to head
Yeah.
there, still
Still great. Still great.
amazing track, just a
Yeah.
marvelous track. I love it. Some people don't like Benny the Bouncer. Those people are wrong, man. What are
Dead
they talking
wrong.
about?
They're dead wrong.
What are they talking about? It's
Oh,
an awesome track. It's
well,
like Jeremy Bender, Are You Ready, Eddie? I like tracks like that.
it's the
I
let off
think they're
steam
fun.
track. That's why I call it the let off steam track.
Yeah, yeah.
You
And
know?
ELP, was good for one, her album back then. And they were always fun. I enjoy it, but to me, the meat of this album was always Toccata,
Yeah.
which just blew my mind when I first heard that thing. I'm like, what am I even listening to? It was
Unreal.
dark and evil and nasty and dissonant. And doesn't get any more progressive than that. And it really, as a kid, got me looking into classical composers and stuff like that. Very cool. And I know ELP always was trying to do that, bring classical composers into their music, from Bartok to Copeland. And here we got a whole different animal here, because this thing is just nasty, man, and it's beautiful. And then you get the grand epic of them all. What, the 30-minute Carnival 9.
Come on. Game
It
over.
doesn't get any better than that. It really doesn't. Uh, I love the first impression, parts 1 and 2. As a kid, you had to flip it over, right?
Yeah, you had
Uh,
the first impression on the first side, right?
yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. You had part 1 and part 2, and then uh, the second impression, just so great with that Caribbean Latin jazz kind of thing going on. That sounds like a steel drum.
Right.
Just such an amazing piece of music. And then you get to the climax, the third impression, where man versus computer and all this stuff. Just so amazing. I guess live in 1973, they had this big giant fake computer on stage, and it would like blow up at the end of the song.
Oh,
Just
that's so cool. I
amazing.
didn't know that. I did
Yeah.
not know that. That's awesome.
There's some video of the old brain salad surgery tour where this big giant fake computer comes on stage. Just amazing. So great. And of course, like any great story, who won? We don't really know for sure,
You don't know.
right?
You don't know.
Did man or the machines win at the end of Carnival 9? Like all great stories, they leave it kind of vague, open to interpretation. There is a news story that came out, gosh, about 2 years ago now, that the good people, the producers of the movie Jumanji, that franchise, had bought the rights to Carnival 9
Okay.
and were doing a movie, Carnival 9.
Oh,
I
wow.
think that would be amazing.
Man, that'd be awesome. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
I mean, it kind of piggybacks a little bit on the whole like 2001 thing, Hal,
yeah.
where it's like Hal kind of takes over the computer. And it's funny. I was thinking about this when I was listening to, for this episode, listening up, and I was like, this is kind of applicable for today, with the whole AI
Yeah.
scare. And, it's like, it's the same thing again. It's like computers might take over kind of thing. And you won't know what's real and what's not.
We're
Um,
getting closer to that moment, that magic moment when we get a sentient computer.
mhm.
We already have computers that are smarter than we are, if the metric is, playing chess or, Go or some other game like that.
Okay.
But if they are already smarter than us and then they become sentient, we're going to have some problems. And yeah, we are getting closer to that reality. So Carnival 9 is absolutely relevant to today. And it's cool. It sounds cool. I can see the movie posters. Carnival 9. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
such a cool movie title, right? The whole like "I'm perfect, are you?"
Oh, there you go.
I
There
love
you
that,
go. That's
you know.
the thing underneath. Yeah.
But I
I
gave
love
you life. No, it's a what a great 30-minute prog epic. I mean, you can't ask for better than that. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just like one of those the classic of all time. When I listen to it, I got to listen to it all the way. I
yeah,
can't listen. And when I first heard brain salad surgery, I remember thinking there was like I thought it was kind of a concept from the word go that like
yeah.
that like Jerusalem was sort of like this is what England used to be like, and it used to be this green and pleasant land, and it's like a hymn that starts the record, and then it goes into this whole like it starts decaying
Yeah,
and
real fast.
it starts decaying, and then the except for Still You Turn Me On, that doesn't really but the toccata is kind of like it's such a beautiful thing, but it's like decaying, and like the whole
Yeah,
like electronic percussion with Carl Palmer in the middle. It's kind of like things are getting
it's
chaotic
just chaos. Yeah,
and chaotic, and then it's like, and then Benny the Bouncer is kind of like a little snapshot of like a place that's kind of crazy, and then at the beginning, the first impression is like he's surveying the land, and he's like, I'll be there, I'll be the guy who'll help you guys out. This place is becoming like a
hey, you're writing your own concept album. This is
yeah.
awesome. I never thought of brain salad surgery as a concept. So I wonder if the Jumanji people, if they're smart, they're going to be watching this
Give
episode.
me a call.
They're they're going to get on the phone and say, "Hey, it's time for a rewrite. You need to start with Jerusalem and move all the way through because there is a story arc there,
Yeah,
and every protagonist has to have a love interest. So, still you turn me
yeah,
on
that's it. Yeah,
absolutely
there we
still
go.
applies.
There we
And
go.
someone get me a ladder. It could be a ladder to outer space when the computers contact their alien overlords. Who knows?
It corrects that lyric still makes me laugh. Every time I hear it, I laugh. Like
I know.
it
It's
definitely feels
awesome.
it definitely feels like a lyric he had that he just didn't change. It was like I'm just not
Yeah,
changing
it
it.
had to stick. Yeah, it
But,
just
you
made
know,
no sense, but he'd been singing it that way. So.
yeah, I'm not changing it, man. It's too late now.
That's right. It's
Um,
one of and it is one of those lyrics that for whatever reason does stick.
yeah,
You
it
know,
does. It does.
I don't know why.
And I think they called their tour "Get Me a Ladder Tour" or something
They
like that.
did. Yeah,
Yeah.
they had a tour called that.
So anyway, so yeah, so I mean,
Hmm.
as you said, this I can't. The whole three-part epic is just unbelievable from start to finish. You cannot
Yeah,
touch it. And Takata is unbelievable too, by the way.
yeah.
Unreal.
Well, we do a Sunday live stream, and last week we did Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and ranking their songs. I had Carnival 9 ranked as their number one track. Most of my colleagues actually had Tarkus ahead of it.
Oh, really? Okay. All right.
I stuck to my guns and I said, no, absolutely not. It's Carnival 9. Now, this Sunday, Tom, we're doing best album sides. And
Mhm.
side two of Brain Salad Surgery is disqualified. I'm not doing album sides with epics attached to them.
Okay.
So close to side one of Close to the Edge doesn't count, and side two of Foxtrot doesn't count either, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I got you. I'm with you.
Uh, but side one of Trilogy is a real tasty choice right now, and it is in pole position.
That's got to
Uh,
be in there.
I'm really leaning hard on it, perhaps being my favorite album side of all time. And I know that's a huge statement because I actually prefer Brain Salad Surgery, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a side. Maybe side one of Red.
Yeah. Yeah. I love
Probably good
Red. Oh
too.
my God.
I'm still working on my list, but yeah, I
Yeah.
guaranteed side one of Trilogy will make my top 10 best album sides of all time. Uh, but to me, Brain Salad Surgery from top to bottom, to me, it ticks every single box, right? When I'm ranking albums in terms of their greatness or their importance or their relevance or whatever metric you may use, Brain Salad Surgery ticks every box for me, from the way it looks to the way it sounds to it having a really cool overarching concept, which it does not have. But Tom, you just invented one, and that's awesome. But when one and a half sides of an album is one song, you kind of it's a concept album already, pretty much.
It is.
People think 2112 is a concept album, right? So
Right.
uh,
Right. How is
you know
Passage to Bangkok in there? I don't know. But anyway, we don't
yeah,
talk about that.
that's not a concept album, people, but that's all right.
But I still
Uh,
love 2112.
I just find that a brain salad surgery, to me, does not have a weak moment on it.
No.
I've never once even dreamed about skipping a track when I'm listening to it. It's just the kind of record I have to listen to from start to finish, from Jerusalem all the way to you know, that weird video game ending of Carnival 9, Third Impression, which does really sound like what would be happening, and you think about all the video game music composers that point to Keith Emerson as their main inspiration. The influence of Keith Emerson and ELP, yeah, they're not getting a whole bunch of airplay anymore on classic rock stations around the country, but trust me, their influence and impact is being felt in subtle ways across the board, across the spectrum. And if you can name a better keyboard player than Keith Emerson, uh, you know, I, I challenge you to that, because to me, when he was in his prime, not only did he combine that virtuoso concert level talent, and he combined it with showmanship that was beyond belief. He
Yeah.
he was the full package, man. He was everything you want.
But
Plus, he was wearing a cod piece with the tights, and he was flirting with the girls and just having a good time. Like I said, jamming knives between the keys of the Hammond, and turning it up on top of himself, and he's playing and
dabbing
just
the
blowing
Hammond.
people's minds. Yeah, man. And he had that weird like tune. I don't know if you've seen like that flat metal tune bar thing that
Yeah.
he'd be playing, and it'd be like a phallic instrument. He'd be, just really playing it up for the ladies. And
We used to say that
we
he
don't have that in Prague anymore, Tom, and we
we
need
don't.
that.
We don't. We used to say that he would put his keyboard really far away, so he had that like that
Oh yeah.
he'd be reaching for it. It's like makes it more dramatic. And I love that he would I love when he turns around and plays backwards.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable, like
Oh yeah.
backwards, and he doesn't miss a beat. And you're like,
No.
I mean, it's one of those like Keith Emerson is like the word genius is thrown around a lot, but I'm telling you, when it comes to Emerson, it's like that
No,
guy's
there's very few people that you can point at and say that guy right there is absolutely pivotal in developing the kind of music that I love. And
yeah, yeah,
you can look at Frank Zappa, you can look at Robert Fripp, you
right.
can look at Keith Emerson. It's a very small handful of individuals that absolutely created something brand new and exciting from the all the creative energy that was going on in the late 60s. If you think about you know all the energy that the Beatles brought
Mhm.
to not just the music industry but culturally around the world.
Yeah.
So if you were a young man and you were interested in music in England, anytime in the 60s, and you saw what the Beatles were doing, of course you'd want to start a band. Why
Yeah.
wouldn't you start a band?
Yeah,
So you
absolutely.
got, you got such a groundswell and such an interest and label support, and then America happened, and these bands saw big dollar signs when Yes and Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Jethro Tull, when they conquered America. Every little kid in England thought that they could do the exact same thing, and as a result, we just had this absolute tidal wave of great music, which to me culminates 1972, 1973. My opinion, the two best years in the history of music. And what a coinky dink. 1972, 1973. They were at the absolute heart of the storm. They were at the vortex. When you talk about bands that created this genre, ELP's right there. Keith Emerson as one of the foundational members.
Foundational.
Come
Yes.
on. But
Yeah.
Greg Blake, we talk about his relationship with Robert Fripp. It's funny that there wasn't room enough for them in a band when I guess there was room enough for them in a guitar teacher's office, because they had the same guitar instructor back home.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They're both from what, Blackpool or
All
Both
right.
both from the same hometown. They had the same guitar teacher.
Yeah, they were like friends as
Yeah,
teenagers, right? They were, yeah.
yeah.
So it's unbelievable that Greg, like someone like Greg Lake, who I think is very, very talented, he could just be like, hey, it's a buddy from down the street, Greg Lake, come on to my band.
So I
Uh,
don't know the dude's name, but somebody out there watching this will. Uh, Best guitar teacher ever.
ever.
Okay. I mean, I'm sorry. Teacher of the year, you win the prize, buddy, right
Yeah,
there.
dude. Because I mean, Greg Lake is what I mean. He
Oh,
underrated
he
bass
can
player.
play.
That guy can
Don't
play, and
don't
he
get it
plays like,
twisted.
and then you watch it live clips, and he's like not even breaking a sweat. He's doing all these like
No.
crazy things on bass and singing. It's like, oh my god, he's
You
on.
don't realize how good a bass player Greg Lake is until you start trying to play his bass lines.
Yeah,
And
right,
uh, and
right.
then it's like, this is
Good
actually
luck.
really hard.
Yeah,
I
good
don't
luck.
want to play this.
Good luck. So,
Yeah, he's
so,
amazing.
so
Uh,
Scott, it come.
just a
This is
great
the
band.
time. This is the time in the video where we have to pick.
Yeah.
No, it's like one of those where you gotta, it's so hard to pick, but you gotta pick one. So when it
Yeah.
comes down to it, where are you going with this?
My heart and soul are in two different places, but sonically, I do think Trilogy is a better sounding album, top to bottom. It's almost perfect, really. Just I can't think of anything I would change on this sucker,
No.
except maybe the album cover. I give the edge to brain salad surgery. Yeah, this thing is just amazing. I mean, come on. Who didn't love this album cover when you were a kid? Come on.
It was
No,
awesome.
you did that about a million times. You thought that was just
What a cool cutout. I mean, it cut out and
bees
everything.
knees.
And a poster.
Yeah,
And a
yeah.
poster. So I mean, it's
Just
like, come on. I mean, it's
just amazing.
you got everything. And H.R. Geiger went on to do Alien, didn't he?
Yeah.
He did he designed the aliens. Um,
And he did a few other album covers. There was a Debbie Harry album cover he did, I remember.
mhm.
Uh, there's a few others, but the artwork on Brain Salad Surgery, honestly, that's one of the things about prog rock that was always fun and exciting as a kid and still is today with a lot of the newer bands. And that is the artwork. The music is supposed to kind of be transcendental and kind of take you somewhere else, take you on a journey or whatnot. I want the artwork to do the same. That's why I've always been a vinyl guy. I don't care what sounds better. All I know is the artwork's bigger.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I prefer the vinyl.
I always kind of like the inside of
Yeah.
Trilogy, where they're like everywhere. Where are they? They're everywhere. And they're in
Hypnosis did a good job on that one.
absolutely. But
Yeah.
you know, when it comes down to it, Scott, these are neck and neck. I mean, neck and neck, but I gotta go. I gotta go with Brain
Yeah.
Salad. I mean, it's usually I like to be contrarian and go, no, it's Trilogy. No, I'm
Yeah.
going Brain Salad on this one because
There
it's
you go.
it's
That's the correct
undeniable.
answer. Absolutely.
Undeniable. And but it
You
but
know,
it is a photo finish though. I always say this.
it is close. It
I've said
really
this
is to me.
I said this on other episodes where it's like the Olympic swimmers where it's like the hand, like
Yeah.
who won that? Who won? I couldn't tell, but it's one of those, but it's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's definitely one of those. And the interesting thing, Tom, is that if you go over on Prague Archives, the only Emerson, Lake and Palmer album they even have ranked in their all-time top 100 is the debut.
Really?
And it's ranked somewhere like number 50 or something.
Man, you're kidding me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the
That's
only
interesting.
one ranked in the top 100.
That's
So,
interesting. So
yeah.
so I saw just a quick since we're done with the rankings and all that, so we can just talk about ELP now. So you said your first show was the Works tour. It was
Yeah.
1977,
Yeah. 77
77, and where was that?
in Milwaukee.
Milwaukee.
And
All right. Okay.
I
You said it was
apparently
awesome.
was right before they pulled the plug on the whole enchilada. I guess they continued on with a little more streamlined version. They were hemorrhaging cash at this point,
It was
and it was
costing a
starting to come out
fortune.
of the band's pocket, and so they had to kind of streamline the thing down. But when they rolled into Milwaukee, it was the whole thing, and it was just ridiculous. They opened with Piano Concerto #1.
Come on, who does that?
Who does that? It's a rock concert.
Well, that was like my buddy. We went to Emerson, Lake and Powell. That was the first time I saw him in the 80s. And my buddy, I was dragged a couple of my buddies with me. I was the biggest fan, but I dragged a couple guys with me, and Keith is doing his like organ. He did like an organ solo or something. He goes, "What is this church?" Like, like, people didn't have patience. I was like, "Come on, man, this guy's a genius. Just relax."
Yeah, exactly.
So
But that was one of the best concerts I ever saw. I gotta say, it really was, and it was shortly thereafter that I moved on to a sailboat, so it had like a lasting memory on me. I think the next concert I saw was in 1979 in Tampa. I got
okay.
to see Led Zeppelin when they played three songs, and a rainstorm happened, and we had a riot, and like 80 people got arrested. It was just awesome.
Oh man, what a piece of history that is.
Only thing that would have been better is if it was during the rain song. That was not
Of course,
that
absolutely.
was not the song that was going on, actually. It was nobody's fault but mine.
Oh,
When the
that's wow, great
Yeah,
song.
yeah, yeah.
I love Presence.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, so the next time I saw I because I was dying to see more ELP, right? But I couldn't. I went to see three
yeah.
in New York because I grew up in New Jersey, so I went to New York and saw the Power of Three band
Mm,
with Robert Barry, and that
yeah.
was just to see Emerson basically, and it was a pretty small place because that album wasn't doing much.
No.
And but I remember being kind of up close to Keith and being pretty psyched about that. That was a pretty fun just to be
Three is not an album people talk about a whole
not
lot,
horrible. It's not
but
horrible.
Des de la Vida.
Yes.
If
Yeah.
anybody's watching this and has not heard this three album, yeah, it was in the 80s,
Right.
okay?
Right.
And it is not Greg Lake singing, so it kind of throws you off a little bit. Check out the track Des de la Vida off of this sucker. And yeah, it's actually amazing. It's such a good song. Yeah, you saw this tour, huh?
Yeah, I saw it. I can't remember where. I
Wow.
want to say the Ritz in New York, I think it was.
Wow, wow, wow.
That was cool just to see
Very cool.
Carl and Keith together. Even though Greg wasn't there, but it was just fun to see those two.
Now,
And Carl wasn't playing his Black Moon style. He was playing
right.
full on Carl Palmer style.
There you go. Yeah, he's
Thank
he's
God.
he's still playing good even today.
Yeah.
But Robert Barry, man, he's in a new band. Have you listened to any of that 6x6?
No, no.
Yeah, he's in a band with the drummer from Saxon
Okay.
and the guitar player from Saga.
Oh, wow. So kind of a super group of sorts.
It's called 6x6. It's a power trio.
Okay.
He's obviously playing bass and singing, a
Right.
role he's pretty comfortable in,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they're pretty good. They just dropped their second album, and yeah, I like it. So good luck to him, man. He's kind of like the hard luck guy, because he was supposed to be the new lead singer in GTR.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Uh,
it was. Okay. Okay.
that Steve Hackett thing.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Robert Barry was going to come in. Max Bacon was taking off, so he was going to be the new lead singer. Of course, there was no second album, and then you got
Yeah.
three going, no second album.
Second album there. Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so
A lot of
good
one-offs.
luck to him. He deserves a
Absolutely.
break finally.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, man, we could talk all night. I'd say
Yeah,
this
we
is,
could.
because
I
we
love
are
this subject.
you're music nerds. We love to talk music and we love to talk about ELP. So
Yeah,
we could be talking all night. So we
yeah,
gotta cut it off somewhere, right? So I want to say thank you so much to my special guest Scott and if you're not familiar with the Prog Corner, where you've been living under a rock, go watch the Prog Corner
yeah.
immediately because it's like if you're into progressive rock at all, that's the channel. I'm telling you.
I
So
th I thank you for that, and sooner or later, you're gonna click on one of my videos. The way the YouTube algorithm works.
yeah, yeah.
So people,
Eventually it'll
you
happen.
know, people are always like, subscribe to my channel. You know what? If you like it, you're gonna watch the videos. That's all I care about. So
Please,
it's gone
please
really, really
subscribe,
well. Yeah.
please.
It's
Yeah.
a bad look, man. I don't like it. It comes across desperate. You
Right.
know, I don't want subscribers that are just casual that, happen to, you know what? I don't want you hitting subscribe. I want people that are crazy about prog rock, that they live for, they breathe it. And yeah, they're going to get nothing but prog rock at the Prog Corner. So thanks for giving me a minute to plug the channel
No
and
problem.
yeah, check it out. And this was a lot of fun, Tom. Thank you.
Definitely, Scott. Thank you so much. And you guys have a great day or great night or whatever, whenever you're watching. So see you next time on Curlis Mania.